Okay, today's date, it is January 26th of 2023. It's 4:18 in the morning. This is my second attempt. I started up Manicam and recorded a short introduction, and then I noticed that the screen that I wanted to go to was frozen from the other day, and so also I see now what it is. It should be showing this other screen. That's what the problem was. So anyway, I stopped that video, and well, let me see if I can do this now. Come in here and clear the layer. Let's see if I can clear the layer. I did. Now I want screen. I want layer, add a layer, manage the layer. See, I want to add a layer. No, I don't want that layer. Okay, let me clear the layer. I didn't do it. Let's see. Remove layer. Okay, I think that did it. Now if I can add the correct layer. Desktop. Oh, the desktop's what I want to. Okay. Which one did I just add? Let me do primary. Okay, that's the primary. And I think you're probably seeing it. Okay, maybe I've fixed it. The only problem, I'm going to make this short. Because if I make it long, it's probably not working correct or something. Well, I have to repeat a little bit that I said in the previous video, which is gone. I returned the cell phone to Amazon. They picked it up yesterday at about 4 p.m. and a few hours after that, it was credited to my account. I don't think that it's shows as in the bank account, but I don't think it shows that it's available that I can access the money. But it shows that it's whatever that means. The reason I returned it, I had no problem. Well, it looks like would have been a good cell phone for me. I'm talking about the Google Pixel stylus. But of course I didn't have there's a lot going on here. A lot of medical problems, a lot of family problems, a lot of problems going on here, and I just haven't been able to concentrate and haven't been able to, everything is pretty chaotic. So I really couldn't devote the time to, it just seemed like the camera part, did not work. What worked, it definitely worked, and it was definitely me. I just couldn't get the settings, find the settings, find that whatever. So I just went back, returned that, and well, you can't see me holding up that. went back to my Pixel 4a because I have no problem with the the camera settings on this, as you've seen with other videos that I've made with it. After it's been, I think, like 6 months or so, I finally reinstalled Stream, and I have on there, of course, Civilization 6. I don't think I've played it for like 6 months there again because of stuff going on. So now, I did play it a little. Yesterday I played it a little bit. I played Civilization, 6. I've mentioned this before, and I know it's bizarre. I've never played a game to completion. Once I was actually, the other, I don't play against anybody, by the way, but the machine, beat me. All of a sudden it came up and destroyed my civilization. But for all the rest of the times, I've never won and never lost. I'm not interested in just bombarding some place. I want to build up a civilization and build up cities and all that type of stuff. So I know that's strange because that's definitely what I'm not a gamer. I think people ask me sometimes, "Are you a gamer?" And I say no, but then I'll mention that I played Civilization 6 or something. I think they kind of wonder what's wrong with this person. A lot of stuff in the news. It's just unbelievable, the stuff that's in the news, the political stuff, the shootings, just everything. Ukraine scrambles air defense after Russia fires missiles. I haven't even checked on this story here. The Earth's inner core may have stopped turning and could go into reverse, studies suggest. Does that mean we're all going to get younger? Like when Superman flew backwards around the Earth and then he went back in time so he could save Lois Lane? Is that what they mean? Are we all going to get younger? With the Earth's inner core may have stopped turning and could go into reverse. Ukraine Air Force said it was working to intercept Russian attacks after Moscow forces fired more than 30 missiles at the country this morning. Emergency power outages imposed in several. Oh, you're not. I'm sorry. Let me bring you back into this. Emergency. No, see. It's funny, I by the time I switch back, one of the headlines changed on CNN. President Biden says there is no offensive threat to Russia if its troops return home. Opinion, so this is an opinion piece by CNN. As drone technology evolves, a moral question looms. For arrest in connection to an alleged rape of the University of Southern California student hit, killed by car. The latest test for the Republican Party will be settled by a secret ballot. That must be in the House or something, I'm guessing. House of Representatives. The House is a mess with the Republicans in control. The whole thing is a mess. A timeline on the investigation into Try Nichols' death after a traffic stop. Let's see, analysis. This is analysis. Media, or Meta, I guess it is. I don't know who that is. Says it won't punish Trump for attacking the 2020 election results. But the 2024 vote is a different story. I don't know what that means. A retired general, I'm guessing one of our generals, on what will happen after the Ukraine gets tanks. Let's see. Oh, on the 6-year-old boy who shot his kindergarten teacher. Some unbelievable information is coming out about that. 6-year-old, I'll sum it up without, well, I guess I could click on it for you. Maybe you could find something. The 6-year-old shows up at school with a handgun. It was his mother's handgun. She kept it on the top of a closet or something like that, if I remember correctly. And somebody at the school is told or something that he has a handgun. And I think it might be his kindergarten teacher. She reports it to the school supervisor, and she checks him in his. They were told that it was in his book bag or something like that, and she looked into it, and she couldn't find a gun. Now, in the meantime, another boy, or I'm not sure they said a boy, I think it was, reports to a different teacher that they were out on the playground, and this boy who was reported that he had a gun and that he showed it to this young student. And the boy who had the gun told this boy, if you tell anybody that I've got this gun, I'll kill you. The boy went and told his teacher, a different classroom. And I'm not sure if it's that teacher or another teacher. I think checks with the school superintendent or whatever. And I guess he says this is going to be settled. This will be in court. And I'm sure, so that she's told that she can check his, book bag. She doesn't find it. She apparently, I may not be getting this all correct, asked the school superintendent if she could check his pockets, check his, and I think this is the third, I think she checks him, doesn't find it, and then a third teacher gets involved somehow, and he doesn't have it in his book bag, and she asked if she can, it was a third teacher. She said, I don't see a gun, but can I, check him, pat him down, I guess, or something. That doesn't sound too good. Well, I don't know, but So then she asked if she can, she asked if she can check, other than the book bag. And the superintendent says no, because school's going to be over in a little bit. Maybe they're going a half day school. I don't know what it was. My kinder, well, was it kinder? When I went to kindergarten, it was half day. So anyway, this has come out. I'm sure the school superintendent is going to be fired, probably sued. Probably a whole bunch of people are going to be sued because this is the United States of America. And anyway, the kid who had the gun, the teacher, he shot the teacher, the kindergarten teacher. He shot her. And she was in very bad shape, but she is out of the hospital now, I believe. And I think she's already indicated that she is suing the school. And then, of course, the police, I don't know if it's police, chief of police of the city, or if it's, their news media spokesperson or whatever, says that, I'm not quoting, this is not an exact quote, it was like, Jesus Christ, why, and I didn't say that, but, Jesus Christ, fuck. The school should have immediately put the school into lockdown. They immediately should have called the police department and immediately, checked the kid thoroughly, and every place the kid probably had been, So that is a, man, talk about it. I'm sure the school superintendent, they probably had some kind of a policy drawn up, that teachers don't search students unless, but that would be a case where, we'll find out what the whole thing is. I am so tired. I think we all are of stories, like this. Let's see, back to the news. My voice is holding up so far. The Half Moon Bay shooting suspect charged with 7 counts of murder in the deadliest attack California County has ever seen. A few threads connected the violence in California as 3 mass shootings leave 19 dead. A man, I don't know who, he had retirement in sight when he was killed. Man worked all his life, looking forward, probably his children if he had some, and, everybody looking forward to maybe grandpa, taking him someplace, and shot dead for no, It says here McDonald's, In-N-Out Burger, and Chipotle are spending millions to block raises for their workers. IBM is cutting 3,900 jobs. America's largest employer just hiked wages. I wonder who that would be. Who is America's largest employer? Walmart, naturally. Okay. Walmart has raised its minimum wage to $14 an hour. Let's see what time. How many? I'm gonna make this about a 30-minute video of mine. It's 4:38 now. Let's see. Too many companies blotch mass layoffs. Here's how they should approach them. Yeah, I just watched one of the Twit TV, I think it was Google, their Google thing, Today in Google or something like that. And they had a guy there who had been, an employee of Google. And I guess they just had a massive, well, and I think it was, what was it, 18% or something of, and they were interviewing this one guy, and he'd worked for Google for, I think he'd worked maybe 17 or 18 years or something like that. Had, I thought, remarkable career, and bang, he was just gone, no advance warning. His boss didn't know. I'm waving, just a second, I'm waving my hands around here. This guy's boss didn't know that this guy was going to be fired. And this guy who got fired, who was on Twit, on Twit, this guy happened to get a communication from a co-worker who was in Europe, and this guy contacted him, and the guy contacted, said, "I'm sorry to hear about that you're that you're in the cut or whatever." And this guy, I guess, answers back, "What?" And he says, "Yeah, you're on a." Well, actually, this guy, he didn't go right back right away, but he was on the, he was let go. And then so he contacted, email or whatever. "How did you know?" And he said, "Well, over here in Europe, where there was, I guess there's strict laws about, for employees and companies to follow and stuff like that. And there was, a list has to be made up ahead of time and things done, but not here in the United States." So, of course, Google's given, giving good benefits to those that are, let go. My second job, when I was working as a welder and building railroad cars, and there's probably, I worked the evening shift. I bet there was 400 or 500 employees working that. Maybe I didn't count them. I don't know. I didn't ask. I just came in and got underneath the railroad cars and was welding away for my entire shift or whatever. I actually quit on my anniversary date, 1 year exactly, and I quit. I was like, before that I was putting off because of the conditions. The pay wasn't bad because it was a union job, but it was in Kansas, right to work state. And that right to work sounds, it's not. It's screw the employees and the people. But a bunch of states have adopted the right to, it sounds good, because doesn't it sound great, right to work? No, it just means that they are doing things to help the employers and to make it difficult for unions to, function in the state that's a right to work state. But, anyway, so I worked there a year, so I would say there was 2 or 3, maybe more, like we would come into work on the evening shift. And somebody would ask, the foreman or the general foreman or whatever, "Is there going to be a layoff?" And no layoff. And other people would be asking, "Is there going to be a layoff?" And no layoff. And then at the end of the shift, almost all the people were laid off. I wasn't. I was a good welder. I'd been to the Lincoln Electric Company in Cleveland, Ohio, and learned to weld. And back at that time, that'd be about 1960 or something like that, welders were in demand, and there was a lot of, men who could weld. But back then, in the olden days, a lot of those people, they learned on a farm how to weld. And I mean, and then of course, when they started working at welding, uh, other people who actually knew how to weld, well, would show them. And so they would improve and get a little bit better. But I didn't get fired in those layoffs. But the reason I think I didn't get fired was my father was assistant business agent for the local 83 of the Boilermakers, and that happened to be the union that we were members of, so I'm sure that's the reason I didn't get laid off. It was because I was a good welder, but also if I, even being a good welder, they'd have probably let me go. But I stayed for a year. My father never showed me, any preference at all, and I never went to my father and said, could you get me this job over here, or could I go out and work in the field? Could I do that? I would never do that, and my father would never show me any, preference or whatever. But what he could do, and he did do on several occasions, uh, like uh, uh, how can I forget that? Anyway, the shipyard down in Mississippi uh, needed welders bad, and they called all the union halls, you know, saying if you have any welders, send them on down. We'll put them right to work, building ships or whatever. So my dad said, hey, you can Pascagoula, that was it. My dad says you can go down to Pascagoula, Mississippi, and work at the shipyard. And I said thanks, and loaded up the car. But when I got to Louisiana, I thought, well, there's the Union Hall, Boilermaker Union Hall. Why don't I go see if they have work closer? So I went in there. They said, yeah, we've got a refinery that needs welders. So they sent me over to take the welding, the welding test. That's where there'll be a couple pieces of metal, and then, you weld them, well, flat first, you weld it. Then they put it in a machine, and, then they bend it. The machine bends it, Then they, have pieces of metal you put together, that they put together, you put together. Then you weld it up, Then you also had to do, overhead, and you did that. And of course they give them the bend test or whatever. I'm not sure if they x-rayed, if they did I can't remember now, it's been a long time. Sometimes they x-rayed it also. So I was sent out there to Pascagoula, Mississippi. And it was the first time I worked in the field where the pay was much better. Of course it was still it was a union job, but the welders who worked inside of a plant, they weren't in the field. My father's union and my union. My mother was actually a Boilermaker, and my father and mother were Boilermakers during World War II out in California. I was there, but I was, I don't know, 1, 2 years, 3 years old in that age during World War II. So my mother, in fact, I'm going to put up a little thing. Eventually, I'm going to get to it. And I have all 3 of our business or union cards. I'll show that and talk a little bit about that. That's one of my things that I intend to do. Anyway, what else in the news, and then I'll let you guys go. Let's see. America's largest. Oh, we already covered that. Walmart. Goldman Sachs. That's a department store, I believe. I worked several second as security as an extra job. I worked at several shopping mall security and other places. One quick story, real quick, and then I'll let you go. You'll have my you had my blessing to go then. I was working full-time hospital security, and I was working part-time security for Burns, Pinkerton, or Wells Fargo, or one of those who paid just barely above the minimum wage, but it was a secondary job. And so anyway, the company, I forget which one it was, there was a hospital downtown. I didn't even really know there was, well, I guess I did at that point. You know, Kansas City had, you know, these major hospitals, and I was working at one of them. The hospital I was working at, well, anyway, I'm going to make this short. Anyway, the contract guard agency called and asked me to go, and I'd never worked, you know, there. Which those contract companies would send you someplace. Oh yeah, we want you to go to such and such a place, and when you get there, the security officer that's working there, he'll show you what needs to be done, and you know, where everything is and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think hardly ever when I went there that when I would get there and I'd say, oh, they said you'd show me. You know, he said they told me the same thing. He says this is my first time working here, and nobody told me anything when I got here. And I was just about injured that time. That was a place that made cat litter, I think it was. And I tried my best to make my rounds and stuff there. And one thing is you stepped on like a belt. It was like a belt, and then when it came up, you know, the thing plopped out. And then you stood on that, and then you held a rope, and then when you and what I didn't know or anything, because that was the first time I'd ever been on anything like that, I just happened to look up, and then I saw there was just a hole, you know, up there that you had to go through, and luckily, then I leaned in and went through. Otherwise, my head would have been, you know, they'd have come in, then 8 hours later or whatever, they'd have come in and found my head laying down there. Had a bunch of close calls like that. But, oh. No, okay. So anyway, I got this call from this guard company. They said, we need you to work at the downtown hospital. And I said, is that an armed post? No, they don't need arms. It's, you know, they don't need an armed officer. It's a hospital. And I said, well, I'm not working there unless I'm armed, because it is a hospital. And they said, oh, there's no trouble with it. I don't think they even knew that I worked full-time at a hospital. I worked full-time at St. Joseph Hospital, and they said, you know, nothing happened. Well, at St. Joseph Hospital, where I worked, I don't know if it was the night, that night or the next night or what, but it was like in a day or two, whatever. One of our officers, we had 10 officers, not 10 per shift, 10 to cover 3 shifts in the worst part of Kansas City, Missouri at that time. I know it was the worst part of Kansas City, Missouri, because that's where I lived. And anyway, Dan Stagel was shot, permanently disabled. 2 guys walked up to him in the parking. Oh, this is getting into, okay, I'm going to make this, I'll end it and not give you any of the more details. At 9:15 p.m. in the Wabash parking lot, 2 guys came through a gate that wasn't there from the church parking lot into the doctor's parking lot, walked up to him and said, is this the hospital parking lot? And he said, yes, it was. And then one sprayed him with mace, and then the other one shot him. And it was a miracle that he survived, because at that time at night, at that hospital, there would have been an ER doctor, and that would have been it. But there was a doctor who came in to deliver a baby. There was a doctor who was feeling sick himself and came by to pick up some medicine for himself or something. And Dan Stagel survived that attack. A few years later, at 9:15 p.m., now I'm not senile yet or have Alzheimer's, at 9:15 p.m. in the Wabash parking lot, John Galegas was on duty, and he saw a guy. Now, of course, it was a doctor's parking lot, but at night there were no doctors there, and in the afternoon, employees could come in and use that also. But anyway, John, like me, we didn't spend much time in the guard shack. It was lit up, and like I said, it was a bad neighborhood. And John Galegas saw a guy breaking into a employee's car, and they both saw each other at the same time. They both shot at the same time, and John Galegas was dead when he hit the ground. The other guy managed to jump one of these fences. The parking lot was with these high fences with the ribbon bob wire. Where I think the guy managed to jump that and run through some apartments, alleyway or whatever. And then when he got to the street, he knew he was going to collapse, so he took his gun and threw it underneath the car. So that's enough of my storytelling. Thank you very much for watching.